I was going to do a kind of introduction, not long, and treat Brother Richard as our guest speaker and guest author. Having this event in a bookstore makes a lot of sense because Brother Richard wrote a very important book called The Brothers of Attica. So he is the right person to make the principal presentation about what it meant to be in Attica 42 years ago, between September 9 and September 13, 1971. And Brother Richard played a very significant role in coalescing the circumstances, articulating the circumstances that existed at Attica before September 9, 1971, and played a very significant role during a period between September 9 and September 13, 1971. And to the extent that he thought, and I don't think he did think, that there could be a massacre on September 13, 1971, ordered by the governor of the state of New York, one of the worst figures in the history of probably humankind, Nelson A. Rockefeller, the representative of the Rockefeller family. Because we know there was a massacre. It's an extraordinary story in and of itself of what occurred. Because of the political attempts at the presidency of the United States by the Rockefeller family, that this massacre took place. Brother Richard, I'm sure will describe that event and what led up to it. And it's a fascinating story, and it's one that Brother Richard authored in what is pretty much a memoir called The Brothers of Attica. It's very difficult to get, and if you can get it, it's really a treasure. My role in Attica essentially began on September 9, 1971, and it began because of two circumstances. One, my membership in the National Lawyers Guild. I was already a lawyer in 1971 on September 9. I was with three other people in what looked like a traditional law firm, at least in name, but it was very non-traditional. We represented two-thirds of the movement that were particularly evident in New York City. We represented the Young Lords Party and what was then known as the Weathermen. The other legal collective represented the Black Panther Party. On that day of the uprising, a call came in to the National Lawyers Guild asking for an observer. There was a number of observers, I think 33 in all, who came to Attica subsequent to the rebellion. My then partner, Louis Steele, was the president of the guild, and he went to Attica, and he was an observer during that period of the 9th to the 13th. Also, we had a client, Lou and I, who was sentenced at Attica. His name was William Maynard. Maynard was convicted of the shotgun slaying of a Marine sergeant in Greenwich Village in 1968, 69, during the height of the Vietnam War. There was no chance that he could get a fair trial in New York County, and he did not. And he was convicted of manslaughter and sent to Attica. We were concerned about our client, so we had a dual thinking about we'd better go to Attica, and Louis Steele went to Attica and was one of the 33 observers and played somewhat of a significant role. The other was that I was part of a legal team who initiated the civil rights damages action against Rockefeller and the rest for the brutality, torture, and murder that took place on September 13th, 1971. I, in fact, was the attorney of record in 1974, We filed it in the Southern District of New York on September 13th, 1974, just in time. There would have been no suit if I had gotten to the court an hour later. The clerk's office was ready to close. It's a 3-year statute of limitations to bring a civil rights action in federal court. This is 3 years, September 13th, 1974. We made it. Not only did we make it, but it stayed as a case for 28 years. It's the story, another story, of how is it possible that a lawsuit could possibly not be resolved in federal court for 28 years. One of the answers to that riddle was the judge here. They transferred the case from the Manhattan Federal Court to good old Buffalo, New York's federal court, and we got John Elfin. John Elfin did give us a trial for 17 years. 17 years, and federal court is renowned for being quick, fast. You go to federal court to get quick resolutions of cases. You stay out of state court because they take forever. Ours took forever. And we did well. Whenever we had the opportunity to try a case, we won. We won for Frank Big Black Smith, who got the largest single verdict in the history, maybe of the United States, for a single prisoner. He was awarded $4 million by your fellow residents of Buffalo, New York. It was quite outstanding. $4 million from a working class jury in Buffalo, New York. And we had another trial, which was similarly successful, for a person by the name of David Grosick, who came from Buffalo, New York. And he was the person who suffered the least amount of injury, and his was $75,000. Factoring Black's verdict, Grosick's verdict, and remember there's 1,251 brothers who were part of this class. 1,251. We had tens of millions of dollars in verdicts for the brothers. And unfortunately, it was all thrown out by the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and we were forced to settle. And the settlement was inadequate. Inadequate. It came to $12 million. Total. Totally inadequate. Black himself had $4 million. Gone. So, here we are today. It all ended, the litigation part ended 2000, 2001. The story of Attica doesn't end because it continues to the future. And I must say that the burning books is an extraordinarily significant location for people to be able to think about what it means to have an intellectual commitment and a political commitment, mostly initially in books, and then in conversation, and then in action. And last year, it was my pleasure to have Chuck Culhane stand up. And Chuck, as you all know Chuck is an amazing story. I hope I'm not embarrassing him, but never before in the history of the United States was a person on death row. Chuck Culhane was on New York State death row and convicted of a non-crime, a made-up crime called misdemeanor murder. Misdemeanor murder. Now, there is such a thing as felony murder, but there is no such thing as a misdemeanor murder. Chuck Culhane was on death row and later served a life sentence for a non-existent crime, misdemeanor murder. He can tell you that story whenever the next event occurs, but I was the person who, unfortunately, was unable to convince a judge that he could not be convicted of misdemeanor murder because there is no such thing. This judge held, contrary to law and contrary to the fact that felony murder is statutory. It never exists in common law. It only exists by virtue of the statute, what the legislature says. And the legislature said that his case, his crime, was a misdemeanor, not a felony. the judge held, I don't care about the legislation. I don't care about anything. His conduct was felonious. And I'm upholding his conviction. And Chuck had to do how many years after that? 26 more years. 26 more years. That's the kind of barbarism that exists in this system that we call the criminal justice and justice system. And it's all about that. I was going to distribute, because I always have to, photographs of what it was like to have been massacred and what it was like to have been a representative of the brothers negotiating with the Commissioner of Corrections in Attica before the massacre. My finger is pointed to our speaker tonight, Richard X. Clark. And he can identify, if you want, the other brothers who were part of the negotiating team. They really thought that this was negotiable. Yeah. Rockefeller had to be president of the United States. He called in the troops. He called in a helicopter or two to drop disabling gas, and called in the state troopers, hundreds and hundreds of state troopers waiting to kill. And they did. Within 5 or 10 minutes, 39 people were killed. And scores of people are seriously injured. But Richard X. Clark, one of the leaders of the brothers, was trying to negotiate this thing out, and there he is at the negotiating table. The other is Frank Big Black Smith, having been tortured, lying on a ping pong table, naked. Before this picture was taken, they had a football under his chin. He stayed for 5 hours. The football never left his chin, under his chin, because if it did, they were going to kill him. What? With shotguns on both sides of his head and a sword at his testicles. They were going to castrate him and murder him. He didn't move for 5 hours, and you'll see what he looks like at the end of those 5 hours. I'm also going to send around pictures of what the brothers looked like after they were neutralized by the armed forces of the state of New York, and what the snake line looked like when every brother was stripped naked. And after having been stripped naked, all of these people, and many, many, many more, we're talking about 1,251, had to run a gauntlet over glass with axe handles and baseball bats and other things, smashing them in every part of their bodies. And one brother we know of by the name of Jomo had to run through the gauntlet after having had his intestines exposed after having been shot in the abdomen. Huh? Nobody was excused from running the gauntlet. This is the kind of barbarism that took place 40 miles from here by maybe some of your neighbors, or the parents of some of your neighbors. That's what people were doing to our brothers and to Richard X. Clark. So let me introduce Richard X. Clark. I think I have. Let me bring him up, and he can certainly speak for himself.
Good evening, Assalamu alaikum, peace. First of all, let me thank Learning Books for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I very humbly accept any opportunity that is allowed me to get the word out with my brothers. My brothers that are not here, my brothers and sisters that are still locked up today, and especially to the community members, because whether you like it or not, we still got a job to do. You know, we still got work to do. It's not over yet. It won't be over until I'm gone. But as long as I'm here, I'm going to work at it. And this work requires letting the truth get out. A lot of people don't realize that the truth has been out, but it has never been out like it's supposed to be about Attica, because The reality is, there's only one person in this day and time that knows the truth. There's no brag or no boast. It's me. I was the one that would travel through no man's land to the administration while I had all these guns and all these correction officers and all these National Guards pointing at me saying, nigga, we're gonna kill you. The electric chair's waiting for you. You just wait, boy. We coming to get you. You ain't all that. But I did this because I was asked to do it. I was asked to do it by my brothers. Because at the beginning of the riot, or at the rebellion, we had a democratic vote. Every individual that came from whatever block, but there were 4 blocks in Attica. I don't have a picture of it. But when we got into D-Yard, and we got our backs up against the wall, and we said, this is it. We said, now, all 1,500 of us can't get up there and speak. So we elected 2 representatives each yard. And I was one of those representatives that were elected against my better judgment to represent a yard. A yard was actually the nucleus of Attica. Why I say that is this. They used to tell us that there was a proper way to confront the institution. You had to write to the commissioner, you had to write to wardens, you write the warden to ask him, can you write the commissioner? Okay. You write the commissioner to ask him, can you write the courts? So we went through all that process. It was up to the point where the warden, Vincent Mancusi, would just totally disregard any federal court ruling that we wanted. Because he said, this is my institution, I'm going to do what the hell I want. Later for you prisoners. You ain't got no rights here. By Muslim brothers, we went to the federal court to be allowed to have 1 pork-free meal a day. They gave it to us. And Kuzi said, heck, wait for y'all. You ain't getting the 1 for you. All we were asking for was peanut butter and jelly sandwich at night. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, maybe a glass of Kool-Aid. They wouldn't even do that for us. So, we got to a point that we're tired of being beaten up, we're tired of being brutalized, we're tired of being treated less than human. Okay. Yes, we were prisoners. Yes, we are inmates. Yes, we got convicted in a court of law of various crimes. We weren't talking about that. We were talking about our basic human rights. To be allowed to have more than 1 roll of toilet paper a month. To be allowed to take more than 1 shower a week. Right? To allow to be able to get publication books and stuff from the outside without being censored. To be allowed to have pork-free meals. You know, you had Muslim inmates, you had Jewish inmates, you had inmates for health reasons, vegetarians, vegans, that did not eat meat, that did not eat pork. They didn't care about that. Now they had the facilities that they could have utilized to give you a pork-free meal, to give you a cheese sandwich. They could do this, but they wouldn't, just to be obstinate. So we got to the position and to the frame of mind that you push me, I'm going to push you back. So this was like September 8th. What we decided, we was in the yard, in a yard particularly, and there were 2 inmates. Now you have to remember, in Attica, there was no integration. There was no tolerance for white inmates to be associated or to talk to black inmates. That's what the institution wanted to perpetrate, but we wouldn't do that. So Raymond, Dewar, and Franklin Meyers, they were skirmishing in the yard, football skirmish. 1 black inmate, 1 white inmate. The guards said immediately, stop it, go to your cells. I'm gonna lock you up. Just for coexistence, institution. We knew that once we went in our cell, we were open game. They were called the Goon Squads. Now, the Goon Squad is a squad of correction officers. We used to call them Neanderthal men because they were like 6'8", 200 pounds, and you got like 5 or 6 of them. You just grab them and take them up to the box. You don't tell them what happened. We were tired of that. So that next morning, we decided to observe and commemorate George Jackson's death. Because at that time, they had tried to perpetrate the absurd lie that George Jackson had hid a pistol in his afro and tried to escape, and that's why they shot him down in the yard. So we said, well, we're going to have a silent observance for this. We wanted breakfast. Nobody's going to eat anything. We had our black armbands. We were going to just sit there. A lot of time that we were given to eat. And turn our spoons, which was the only utensils that they gave us to eat with, back into the trough and go back to our cell. That's what our intentions were. And it went about that far until we got to Times Square. Now, Times Square is a part of the institution where all the 4 blocks come together. Okay. We call that as the Times Square. But there's a gated fence that closes Times Square off. And on that hallway, the only other opening is a yard or the administration building. They immediately lock those 2 places off. We are coming down the corridor from Times Square. Times Square is locked up. We see the Goon Squad coming down. They got these 18-inch batons. What they call the bigger sticks. We got these 18-inch batons where they coming down to beat us and hurt us back to ourselves. We said, no, this is not happening anymore. And we overpowered the guards. Totally by surprise. They never expected it. And it was like a wildfire. And we ended up getting control because that was when, how can I say it? I'm gonna just say it like this. That's when their punkhood really manifested themselves. They found out how much man they were, and they weren't. They were so scared that they would offer themselves to us, oh brothers, please don't let the other inmates get us. We do this, we do that way. So, unbeknownst to the general population, we all gravitated towards D Block. Before you knew it, that's where we had taken the people, the corrections officers and the administrative people who were in our control now. We had taken them to D Block to protect them from their own people. And truthfully, to protect them from some of the other inmates. Because some of the other inmates were of the mindset, you've been kicking my ass for so long, now it's my turn to kick your ass. But on the whole, we knew that that was not the answer. That was not the answer. We could not show the same brutality that they showed us. We have to show more humanity, more humaneness. And that's what we did. We took everybody to DR. Word came up. All right, we're not going to talk to everybody. Somehow, my name fell out. Only person that we would talk to is Brother Richard. Reason being was that I had a history with the administrator. My history was that I was a Muslim. I didn't take no shit, and my word was my bond. If I told you something, it was going to be true. And I wasn't of the mindset of kicking your ass. Even though I knew I could, but I wasn't of that mindset. My mindset was more communication. Communication is key. I can kick your ass all I want. That's not going to make you like me anymore. But if I talk to you like you're a human being, you say, well, maybe this man is okay. So it was established that I was going to be the representative for the inmates and the only one allowed to the administrative wall to talk to the administration. We had, at that particular time, we had about 45 prison and administrative personnel as they called hostages that was under our control. The first fatality was a correctional officer, a young correctional, I think he was 21 at the time. His name was Michael Smith. And unfortunately, he got beat up by a lot of inmates. And when we got control of the institution, that was one of the first things we said.
Wasn't that Quinn?
Quinn, no. No.
Wasn't Quinn?
No, Michael
Was,
Smith. Quinn was, yeah.
Quinn died. Smith died?
No. Michael Smith was first Christian, first fatality that died. And we told them to come and get him out. And they wouldn't. By the time they got him out, they still.
That's Quinn.
No, Michael Smith.
No, Michael Smith is alive as well and testified for us.
Okay, man.
Quinn died.
William Quinn died.
With his daughter?
His daughter.
Okay, sorry. Michael's. Quinn.
William Quinn dies.
William Quinn, okay.
When the gate breaks,
21 at the time, right?
at Times Square,
Yeah.
when the
They-
gate breaks, he's trampled. And Dee Dee is his daughter.
Yeah.
Right, Dee Dee Quinn.
Yeah. He was one of the first fatalities that transpired at Attica. But it wasn't to our doing. Yeah, he was trampled by other inmates. But we always made it possible for him to be taken out of the institution. It was because of their attitude, about who we were, they didn't come and get us. But he was one of the first fatalities. Now, after that, they tried to pin 43 deaths on the Attica brothers by asking the coroner to say that everybody that killed there was stabbed, castrated, or throats were cut. The coroner said, "No, I couldn't do that. Everybody that died, they died of gunshot wounds. And we as prisoners did not have any guns. We weren't trying to escape out of there. We were trying to get the people in the community to see what was going on in there. Because that brick wall built around Attica was not built to keep us from getting out. It was to keep y'all from seeing what was going on inside those institutions. Because if you saw what was going on inside the institution, you knew that the next person that was going to happen to would have been you. See, that's the only reason, because what you got going on inside of your prison is just a microcosm of what's going on in your communities. At that particular time, inside of Attica was every political group that existed out here in your community. Young Lords, Weathermen, 5%, Black Muslims, Panthers. Every political group that you had out in your community, we had behind those walls. And we were on our job, politically and morally and physically. As far as physically is concerned, on how to act, how to be a man. Man up, you hear the saying? We manned up. Because we refused to live like animals any longer. We said, if we can't live like men, then we'll die like men. See, because we weren't beyond making that sacrifice that a lot of workers and revolutionaries are scared to make. And the reality is this: you only got one thing. If you're not ready to give that up, then don't get into fighting. And that one thing is your life. You have to make that determination whether or not you want to live like a man or you want to die like a man. And at that time, we were ready to make that sacrifice. Still ready to this day. But you got to get to that mindset, because that mindset helps you not be afraid. Because if you really think about the dynamics of the whole situation, you're a damn fool not to be afraid. I mean, we're fighting a mega power, and we're fighting this without any weapons, except the weapons of our mind. We know we can't beat them gun to gun. They got all the weapons. You know, we were talking today about how when I went to Attica, they didn't have no drones. Now they got drones where they can hit direct hits and be in Arizona somewhere. Okay? They didn't have that. But how do we get around that? Our solidarity, our willingness to fight, as Malcolm said, any means necessary. Our willingness to do this. And just our compulsion to say, hey, I'm not accepting the status quo. I'm about change. And that's one thing is constant. You really think about it. Change is constant. Ain't nothing remains the same. There's always change. Today, tomorrow, will be different than today. This second right now, next second will be a change. I'll say something one way, but it'll be a change. The main thing is to be a part of change, accept change when it's beneficial to the people, and try to bring about a change when you see a change is necessary. Those are three simple things that we can do. But the main thing is to be about change. Now, a lot of people say, well, damn, Attica happened 42 years ago. How's that prevalent to the day? It's prevalent to the day because the conditions inside of Attica, the conditions inside our communities are worse than 1971. Are worse than 1971. We're in a whole different arena now. When I went to prison, and I went to Attica, I didn't know nothing about the World Wide Web, net, internet. What was that? But now, I got to be, in order for me to be proficient, I got to get on the computer, and I can pull up damn anything I want. You know, I can pull up my own stuff if I want to. But that shows us change and how we as a people, we have to go along and learn about change in order for us to be efficient enough to make a change. We can sit here, go through all the rhetoric we know. We can sit here and go through all the dialectics that we can think about. But the most important thing is action. Action. It was no more than coming down here and talking to Nate, the burning book stuff. It was no more than that. It was no more than three of y'all getting together and talking about some changes that need to be made in the community. It was no more than that. That's the start. That's the start. We still got the power, believe it or not. We still got the power. I mean, it's slipping through our grasp quickly, but we still got it. We still can, you know, do that tug of rope thing. Maybe we can pull it more so to our side, but we got to be willing to stand up and grab that rope. Because if you don't do that, then you just, you know, you're commenting about nothing you're taking part in. And in actuality, if you're not taking part in something, what the hell are you doing commenting about it? Yeah, that's how. But I'm just one person. But with Joe, I guess about 30. Anyway, but that's about that. That makes Attica very prevalent today because conditions. Another one of these modern conveniences. I hate this thing. But I like it because I don't have to answer it. That's what we have to do. We have to always keep how do I say, keep your toe in, keep your fist in, you know, keep stirring that soup up. Don't let it get stuck up on the bottom. You got to keep stirring that pot. Because they sure no stirring it on us.
Yeah.
And you can look around and see, you know, what's going on. And if you don't see it, ask somebody. You know, ask somebody. Ask somebody to write it down so you don't forget it. You know? Because I know, like, I'm getting up in years, and I have a tendency to get those senior moments and don't remember. So I got notes written down. You know, don't forget your pencil is still here. You know, I write it down so I don't forget it. You know, because it's real. It's real. You know, and I'm real. I try to be real in a sense. I'm not as young as I used to be. I can't run like I used to. Actually, I'm to the point I ain't running nowhere no more. You know, my running days is over. You know, I stop. Let's do it here. Let's do it right now. So there'll be no misunderstanding. Because I'm too old to be going through a whole lot of stress. I know how it is. Now, I try to not have you go through the same experiences that I had to go through to learn where it is. But sometimes you gotta learn on your own. You know? Sometimes old Pop here can't tell you, well, avoid that road, go down that road. You say, old Pop, you don't know what you're talking about. All right. Go on, boy. You'll find out for yourself. But it's the job that we have to do. You know, it's not something that I can say, well, I'll do it maybe 2 months out the year. No, it's 24/7. And you got to be willing to accept that frame of mind of what you got to do. And the reality, it ain't hard. It's not hard being true to you. And true to you is the truth. It ain't hard to accept it. And damn hard to, you know, to reject the truth. A lot of us will say, oh, this ain't going on. You know, when you look back, I can look back at the days when I was growing up, and they used to have about Sky Fargo and what's this other guy? Sky King, and all that. And how 1984, how we were all going to be under surveillance. And I mean, damn, here it is, 2013, and we are. We got cameras all over the place. You know, but you can remember. I remember when we used to look at Captain Kirk, Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
Beat me up, Scotty, on my, what? My telecommunicator? Hey, I got one of those too. But that's progress. We have to utilize the same means and the same instruments that they do, even though they have them more so available to them than us. But what we have to do is once we get them to our availability, to use them. Not to say, well, I'm not going to let Nate use my phone, because I don't like Nate. Yeah, Nate coming to me, Richard, can I use your phone? Hell no. What's the point in that? What is the point in that? It should be the camaraderie, the brotherhood. Nate come up to me, Richard, can I use your phone? Here you go, baby. I'm not asking who you gotta go, or who you wanna go, or when you gonna go, or whatever. I'm not even asking that. I'm letting you use my phone because this is my brother. You know? And I want for my brother what I want for myself. Okay? That's the old credo that, how can I say, not only Muslims, but the brotherhood has for itself. You always want for your brother what you want for yourself. And not only brother, but your sister too. If you are my brothers and sisters out here, I got you. If you are my brothers and sisters out here, then what I want for me, I want for you. Yeah. Because that's going to give us the solitude and the unity that we need to crash through these walls that are being built up to keep us segregated. And again, go right back to Attica. They had 4 different yards to keep us segregated from each other. If I had a brother that went to Attica the same time I did, and he went to D yard, and I went to A yard, I wouldn't see him but one time a year. 4th of July when they threw black and white ice out. Now they have a thing in Attica called black ice and white ice. On the 4th of July, they would take 2 wheelbarrows of ice and throw them in the field. One, the Afro-American inmates could go. That was the black ice. The other was the white ice. Only Caucasians could go and do that. Now, if you were Native, I think, yeah, Dr. Drew, he had that go with us because he was Native American. So, but that was the institutional segregation that they tried to implement. And they were very good at it. Very good at it. They used to have things to get your mind off of being locked up. They let you practice or play football on the weekend. So that would take your mind from maybe getting a high school diploma. You know, you're gonna play football in bed, cigarettes on the outcome of the games instead of educating yourself. But the brothers, we would have classes in the yard while the guys are playing football. We teach you guys how to get the high school diploma because we knew at that time, and it's still going on today, that, what is it, almost 85% of your men and women that go to prison come back out into the prospective community. So my question to you is, what the hell are you doing for that period of time you being locked up? Are you bettering yourself so that when you go back in the community, you don't have to resort to the same thing that got you in prison in the first place? Or are you going to just wallow your way in tomfoolery while you're there? Our thing was educate yourself so that you don't have to come back here. Because time is stopped. You go in 5 years, that time, that's 5 years for you. That has stopped. You do no growing, you do no learning, nothing. And you go back out with the same attitude that you came in 5 years ago, you're going back, coming back. So our thing was, do the best you can for yourself while you are here. Even those brothers had some long sentences, but ultimately they got out, or they're going to get out. And they have to prepare for this once they get out. Because this, after a small amount of time, can be very overwhelming to come back to. Because I can remember the day I got out. If I didn't have my attorneys and my friends and family, I probably would have slipped up somewhere and got in the corner and just got in the fetus position and said, later. But they helped me adjust. And adjustment is not an easy thing, especially for a brother or sister that's been away for a while. A lot of times you go back, you ain't got your family's gone. All the people that you knew are no longer there. So you come into a whole new atmosphere. And if you don't have someone to look out for you, you're dead and sneaky. You're not going to make it. But again, that's where the community comes in. Brothers and sisters get out here. We got a lot of places now that they have facilities where they can live. They got places where they can get jobs. They got whole dynamics facilities where they can better themselves and become very positive and assets to the community and are able to carry it forward to do for others what was done for them. And that's what the whole process is about. And bottom line, you have to always remember, it's not getting any easier. It's not. They have gotten so sophisticated in this war, but we have to become just as sophisticated as they are. Because we know now it's no longer, it's no longer gun for gun. They got all the guns. So now I got to be able to verbalize how I feel without throwing so many emotions in it, so that you're not able to say, well, he's just going off on a tangent. He's just so angry. What is he so angry about? So you got to be able to communicate with them with that smile. I'm gonna kick your ass because y'all can keep me on the second game for too loud. You got to be able to just smile with them and everything, but you have to have that ulterior objective in your mind. And that should always be change. I don't know where it went wrong, but they took the power from the people and gave it to the man. We got to take it back.